Join me as we take a closer look at what really happened between Ross Duffer and Leigh Janiak, a marriage that quietly unfolded behind the scenes of some of modern pop culture's biggest successes. Ross Duffer is best known as one half of the Duffer brothers, the creative minds behind Netflix's global phenomenon Stranger Things. As a creator, writer, and director, Ross helped shape a series that defined a generation of television, blending nostalgia, horror, and heartfelt storytelling into a cultural juggernaut. Leigh Janiak, meanwhile, carved out her own space in the industry as a filmmaker with a sharp voice in horror, directing films like Honeymoon and Netflix's Fear Street trilogy. While both names are familiar to fans of genre storytelling, fewer people knew that these two creatives shared more than just an industry. For nearly a decade, they were married. Their story didn't begin in the spotlight. Ross and Leigh met in 2006 in Los Angeles, long before red carpets and global fame entered the picture. At the time, Ross was working as an intern, still trying to find his footing in Hollywood. Leigh was working as an assistant to a producer, similarly navigating the early stages of an industry that demands persistence and patience. They were young, ambitious, and connected by a shared passion for storytelling. What started as a relationship between two hopeful creatives eventually grew into a long-term partnership. Leigh Janiak's path to filmmaking was already well underway. Raised in Ohio, she developed an early interest in performance and storytelling, studying theater before attending New York University, and later the University of Chicago. Her background gave her a strong foundation in character-driven narratives, something that would later become a defining feature of her work. Ross, on the other hand, was building projects alongside his twin brother Matt, pitching ideas and developing scripts while waiting for a breakthrough that would eventually come years later. In December 2015, Ross Duffer and Leigh Janiak were married in Palm Springs, California, in a ceremony officiated by a friend. It was a private event, reflective of how they approached their personal lives overall. Not long after their wedding, everything changed. In 2016, Stranger Things premiered on Netflix, and quickly became one of the most successful series in the platform's history. Almost overnight, Ross went from an emerging filmmaker to a household name. As Stranger Things grew into a global franchise, the demands on Ross's time increased dramatically. The show required long production schedules, intensive writing periods, and constant involvement as it expanded in scope and scale. At the same time, Leigh was continuing to pursue her own creative ambitions. Her debut feature Honeymoon had already established her as a promising voice in horror, and she went on to direct the Fear Street trilogy, which was released by Netflix to strong reception. From the outside, their marriage appeared steady. They rarely gave interviews about their relationship, and did not court media attention as a couple. When they did appear together or mention each other publicly, it was usually in supportive terms. Ross spoke positively about Leigh's creative insight, and Leigh occasionally acknowledged Ross's passion and dedication to his work. They maintained a united front, one that suggested mutual respect and understanding. However, as is often the case with public figures, what appeared seamless on the surface did not necessarily reflect the full reality behind closed doors. The entertainment industry is known for its intense pressures, and even the strongest relationships can be affected by demanding schedules, long separations, and the constant weight of expectations. When both partners are deeply invested in their careers, finding balance can become increasingly difficult. In February 2024, Leigh Janiak filed for divorce from Ross Duffer after nearly 9 years of marriage. The filing cited irreconcilable differences, a common legal designation that typically indicates a breakdown in the relationship without assigning blame or detailing specific causes. Leigh also requested spousal support as part of the filing. The date of separation was listed as to be determined, suggesting that the process was ongoing rather than the result of a single, dramatic event. The news came at a time when Stranger Things was once again in production, following industry-wide delays caused by labor strikes. Almost immediately, speculation began to circulate online. Fans and commentators attempted to connect the divorce to the pressures of the show, to creative decisions, and even to the emotional tone of the series' upcoming final season. Some theories went further, suggesting hidden conflicts or unspoken creative tensions. None of these claims were supported by verified information. What is known is limited to what has been made public through legal filings. There is no evidence of scandal, infidelity, or public conflict between Ross Duffer and Leigh Janiak. There were no dramatic statements, no social media disputes, and no public attempts by either party to shape the narrative. Both chose silence, allowing the legal process to unfold privately. They also did not have children together, which simplified the legal proceedings, and removed another layer of public scrutiny that often accompanies high-profile divorces. Beyond that, details remain private, as they likely intend. As the news spread, fan communities continued to speculate, with some attempting to retroactively analyze the success or perceived shortcomings of Stranger Things through the lens of Ross's personal life. Others questioned whether Leigh had influenced Ross's work more than was publicly acknowledged. These discussions, while common in online spaces, blurred the line between curiosity and conjecture. What remains clear is that Ross Duffer and Leigh Janiak are both accomplished professionals whose careers stand on their own. Stranger Things was created and developed by Ross and his brother Matt, and Leigh's success as a director is independent of her marriage. While creative partners in life may inspire one another, there is no factual basis for claims that either's professional achievements depended on the other. Following the separation, both have continued moving forward professionally. Ross and Matt Duffer signed a new multi-year deal with Paramount, signaling a new chapter beyond Stranger Things. Leigh Janiak continues to develop projects within the horror genre, a space where her voice has already made a significant impact. Their marriage, which began long before fame entered the picture, ultimately ended quietly, and without public conflict. In an industry where breakups are often sensationalized, their separation stands out for its restraint and privacy. So what really happened between Ross Duffer and Leigh Janiak? The most honest answer is that two people who build a life together at the beginning of their careers eventually grew apart as their lives evolved. Fame, ambition, and creative pressure can reshape relationships in subtle ways, and not every story ends with permanence. What remains is a reminder that behind every celebrated creator is a personal life that exists beyond the screen, shaped by choices, challenges, and change. Their marriage was real, their separation is real, and both continue forward defined not by the end of a relationship, but by the work they choose to create next. If you're interested in more stories about the people behind the projects that define modern entertainment, there's always more beneath the surface waiting to be explored. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.